Hello everyone, I'm Salih and welcome to TechBuddy. In today's video, we will be talking about ILogger interface and ILogger implementation in .NET, how .NET team uses it and how it is being used in either console application or web application or any other .NET application. The ILogger interface is the same. How we can implement it and how we can create new implementation for it. In today's video, we will be creating our custom rolling file ILogger or rolling file logger mechanism. The rolling means actually when the log file reaches at some specific level, we will be configure it, and we are going to create a new file so to make sure that every file has a specific size. Let's say every log file could be only 100 megabyte or so, and the new file will be created accordingly within the same path. We will be configuring this. And now let's dive into how we can configure it. Firstly, we are going to start with creating a .NET API, which I created already over here, and I've made no changes on it. It is basically a weather forecast API that has no changes except this one. Once this method is called, when this get action call, I'm just adding some log says, okay, get weather called. This is the only changes I made. And in program CSN or the others, we don't have any changes. Let's first see how we can activate, how we can create new logger, or just how we can customize it. Under builder services, we have add logging extension function over here, and I can configure it. And how I can configure it? Okay, this is builder, and the builder type is ILogging builder, which means that I'm going to create I'm going to customize this builder. I can create new one, or I can manipulate the current one. For example, if I say, okay, clear providers. Now it is going to clear every provider. Some of the providers are already included when you create the first time. For example, add console logging. Once you create this project, actually, it is automatically added. So once you are debugging, all the logs goes through the console. It's because now it is being programmed by Microsoft sync all the logs to the console. We are going to be doing the same thing or just a similar thing, but for files right now. But now I can clear everything. Apart from that, I can say, okay, builder, but that not builder though. So let me just say logging builder. It's because we already have another builder there. Logging builder, add console, for example, those are added by Microsoft automatically. Add JSON console, add simple console, add systemd console, or add debug, add event log. It's going to be the operating system's event log, for example. And we have others as well. And now we are going to create new one. But firstly, let's see how add console works or what it does. It's because we are going to be the same thing. Once we get into add console extension function, we are going to see a couple of console formatter, edit, JSON console formatter, systemd console formatter. So they are basically using specific formatter to format the log depending on where it is syncing. If it is console, they are formatting. If it is systemd, they are using different formats. But what I am actually curious about is this one. Any logger provider. So I'm just going to get into it and I will see an interface, ILogger provider. We are going to be using the same ILogger provider to create custom providers. It's because Microsoft uses it that way. So if you're gonna create your custom logger, you're gonna need to use this ILogger provider. The interface has a couple of methods in it, but the one is create logger. I said couple of because we have another one disposed in here, but the most important one is create logger. So I need to provide the create logger function in it as well, and it returns ILogger, which means I'm going to implement my ILogger, then I'm gonna create ILogger provider, which will create logger in it. So let me just go through with it. So now I'm creating a logging folder into my project, and I'm gonna create, firstly, I will start actually my logger provider. It will be file logger provider. This is the basic class. I'm going to implement ILogger provider interface. Now I'm going to implement an interface which will be giving me dispose function as well as the create logger function. This returns ILogger, which means I need a class or I need a type that's derived by ILogger interface. I'm now going to create it here. Says okay, file logger from ILogger, and ILogger will have a couple of methods in it. So is enabled, begin scope, and the log. The log is the one that we are going to use the most. It's going to be called the most, and we are going to be using the is enabled as well. But this is how it is going to be like actually. So create logger needs to create and returns an ILogger. So I will say okay, and return file logger, and new file logger of course, while disposing do nothing. But so far, so I have just met all the needs from ILogger provider. So this is my new provider. I can inject, and I should inject this into the system, .NET logging system, so .NET can use it. So logging provider, logging builder, sorry, add provider. It could either be, sorry, new file logger provider. So now it is done. Whenever I use ILogger interface that is provided by Microsoft, for example, over here, I'm using ILogger interface. And whenever I use it, now Microsoft.NET itself, my host application, is going to sync all the log to my ILogger provider, which would go to file logger. So now I'm going to shape this file logger class up, and so to make all the logs make sure that all the logs goes to the file. Let's start with some configuration. I will be creating a string variable here by saying log path, for example. I will be getting the log path from configuration, and actually let me create a constructor here and accepting iConfiguration, and I will be reading those paths. For example, log path from configuration, and give me that. So where I'm going to read this. As a default, for example, here, as a default, we have logging section within this development JSON, or it could be app settings JSON, it doesn't matter. So I will be using path, and I will be using max file size. It is going to be representing my file, how big it could be. After 1 kilobyte, I'm going to create a new file. It could be actually even more, like that, for example. But I will be using path like this, and I have created new section under logging. So my configuration would be logging file path, for instance. And I can say, okay, I have a max file size as well, and read it configuration, get value. It's going to be an integer, and path would be logging file max file size. And I'll create this as well, private read-only integer, and this could be read-only as well. All right, so I read that one, I set it. I will also be reading the trace or debugging or information or whatever the log level is. So I will be reading the log level, and log level is actually private read-only log level, and I will be using it log level. All right. And I will also be reading this from configuration, but let me just say first, okay, log level string and enumeration, try parse to log level, try parse to log level. Actually, let me use it that way. So read the configuration first, logging log level and default. Why I'm using default? And it's because it is already defined here. I could be reading something else. I could even say, okay, I have my log level here, but it's already implemented, so I'm gonna use the existing one. So this is going to be it, and this Actually, I don't need that. Try parse. Okay, try to parse that one and set it to log level variable that I have over here. So I read it as well. And over here, where will I see it? Category name. So category name is actually represented here. For example, the category name for this one, once I created the ILogger, it will be name of this one, the generic property, generic type. So weather forecast controller, the category name will be. And the Microsoft itself is going to provide, .NET itself is going to provide that to you. So I will be using, okay, this is going to be my, let's say, string category name. So I can use it while logging. So it could be in log format or somewhere else. So I will be creating a property for that one too. And I will read something else, but let me show you something. So is enable, how we can use it actually. If is enable, I'm passing the log parameter, is false, I will return. What it means actually, let's say, okay, I am creating a log here with the level of information. So this is informative for me actually. So this is informative information. Something that is not that important. It's not an error, it is not a warning, but it's not trace or debug too. So every log has level. So I'm now using information. But I can say, okay, as a file logger provider, you should only log when the log level is, for example, return log level is information, or when the log level is warning equal, or it could even be equal or greater than the warning. That's in that case you can log, but I don't want to do it over here. It will also be configurable here. Pass the string as category name and returns boolean, represents if it is enabled or something. I will say, okay, log level function or func or whatever it is. So I will set this function too. All right, so log level function. I will be using it where here. I'm just gonna say, okay, return by passing category name I read, and also I will say, okay, the log level is when it's lower than my log level. Actually, let me see. Yeah, this log level, then return true. I mean false. So let's assume you set your configuration, which is, I read it here, log level. You set it warning, but the log level here is information. If information is lower than what you expect, which is warning, then it is going to return false, which it is not going over here. It is not going to sync the log to the file. So we are creating our own logic, and we are also sending this parameter, calling this parameter by sending the category name. It could be used somewhere else as well. I could put this logic into that one too. But now I'm just going to show you how we can read the log level as well from the configuration. It could be depend on that one too. So I can even get rid of this and okay, return true, I could say. But I'm just going to show you two different ways to set it. So the first one could be reading the configuration from the file and set it here, and the other one could be the log level function. So basically you move the logic to the outside, whoever creates this function, whoever creates this factory. All right, so log is enabled. When it is not enabled, we are returning it. We are not gonna log anything. In the backend scope, we don't need to do anything. So we can return default, whatever it is. All right, so we can now create the folder that we are going to produce the files on. So we read it from here, so it's going to be the path that we are going to create. And let's say, and void, private void initialize logger. And over here, I'll make sure that the directory exists already. So string directory path get directory name from log path. So our log path, if you remember, it is the whole path. So now I'm getting this part by saying, okay, give me the directory. So if directory, I mean directory from system.io exists, I mean not exists, okay, create one. This is the first step. And the second step is going to be saving the file size, the current file size, as well as the current file name. So we can create multiple files. So today, let's say we produce lots of log files, and I've created more than one file. Log file 1, 2, 3, 4, and when the application decides which file is going to do, I will just save it into another variable. So let me create one. Private string and current file name or file path. Also private long current file size. I'm going to use the both. So current file path is going to be my log path. This is the first initial one. And the file size is actually depends on if the file exists, the current file exists. If exists, I will be reading, okay, new file info, get the file of this one, get the file info, get the size of this particular file. Or if the file is not exist, I'm just going to say, okay, it is 0. So this is enough initialization, and let me call this function from here. So once this is created, it is going to be initializing whatever I said here. And now let's fill into that log file. So if it is not enabled, do something. What we are gonna do is maybe creating a wait write log to file, let's say. And it is going to contain message. So what the message would be, or message, I can create something. So I'm just looking at my parameters to the log function. I have log level, okay, information debug or whatever it is. I have event ID, it could be useful. I have state, we'll be getting into it later. And we have an exception. If it is an exception, it's because you can create exception log as well by saying, okay, logger, log error. And if you see over here, the first parameter is an exception. So it is going to give you the exception. So you can have it. And we also have formatter. So the formatter is a function, accepts state and exception, the state that we've over here, and the exception, and returns string. It's basically the Microsoft itself's formatter. I'm saying, okay, this is my state and this is my exception. Please give me the string that I can use. If there's an exception, it is going to give you the whole stack trace. If it is not exception, it's not going to include anything. So it is how it works actually. And this is going to be my message formatting actually. So I'm just going to say, okay, use datetime UTC now to string function. Actually, I can use it this way. dd mm yyyy and hhmm this could be enough. All right, and here within the brackets, and I can use, okay, this is going to be my log level. I can pass it to. And also I will be saying, actually, I'm not gonna use this one here. I'll be using it here. And this is going to be the message. Okay, this is my format. This is the format that I'm going to put into my file on every line, every row. Okay, let's create this function. So I have something private returns task and write log to file accept string message. So I want this logging thing as a thread safe. So I can use logging mechanism. So I can use log keyword. I can say, okay, this is my logging object. Once I'm writing anything to the file, so please lock that object so no one else can use it. Or I can use semaphore slim. So I will create semaphore slim. and private semaphore slim. So let's say, okay, semaphore. I can initialize it. I can actually create it here and new, and the current and max count is going to be 1, which means only one thread can use this semaphore and do something within that scope. I will just use that scope right now here. In try finally block, actually try finally, I'll set my semaphore wait async. I will be waiting for it. And also here, I will release it. And let's make it async, so it could be okay. So now, once I wait for it, it's going to, what's going to happen is, once any thread use semaphore, it's going to wait, and it's going to wait until I release it back. It's because I am now having only one over here. Only one thread could just, I just said only one thread could just access it, or only one thread can wait for it or release it or whatever it is. It's going to wait for until I release. So the first thread is going to be done and then release it. So the second thread can come over here, wait and release. So whatever I do here is going to be thread safe, I can say. Alright, I passed some code over here just to be quick actually. So now basically I'm checking current file size. If the current file size greater or equal than max file size, which I get from the configuration, what I will do is, okay, I will get next file path. So I'm going to create a new file and I'll say, okay, this is going to be my next file. And also will be setting the current file size to 0. It's because there's not gonna be anything in it. And over here, I'm saying, okay, I'll put the message with a new line. So it's basically write line. And I'm encoding it. I'm using file stream here by saying, okay, I will be using this file stream appending something. If it does not exist, please create it. And the buffer size is actually, in the current situation, greater than our file size, but that's okay. And I'm basically using an async, actually I'm using, and also writing the encoded text into the stream here, and this could be it. So the problem here, actually, you can say, okay, this is a void and you made it async without returning anything but then task. How it is that possible, or if it is safe? I would say in a normal way, it is not good enough. It's something, but it's not good enough. Please do not do that. But if it is a function, or if it is an event-based something, event-based function that calls by Microsoft, by the .NET framework itself, it is almost safe to do so. So in here, I can say, okay, it is safe for us. And let's prove it. Let me see if I miss anything. We created ILogger. We say, okay, log file, the file name and file path, and yeah, just let me show what is next file path. And I'm basically getting the folder. This is the so file name without extension. I'm getting the log, let's say, or yeah, I'm just getting this part only without extension. And I'm also getting the directory. I'm getting the extension. It's because now I'm going to combine everything together, so make a valid function, a valid log file log name. And I created the for loop over here. It could be even while loop, it doesn't really matter. I'm basically creating a new file with combining all those extension, directory, base, file name, and index. So basically log1, log_1, log_2, it could be with an extension. And I'm checking if the file exists. If the file exists, I'm going to create new one. So by saying, okay, increase the index, go log2, check log2. If it is exist, okay, find the new one, log3, log4. You can't even read the whole directory, get the latest by, I don't know, maybe checking the modify time and order the modify time and get the latest one and parse it, the integer part, and increase it and create new one. But this is the way I'm using. You could be doing that one. It could be probably more efficient. And initialize logging, it is all right, it seems. Okay, and we've also created, yeah, we have added to that one, and I will be logging it to here. So under C driver into logs directory. Let me just run this application and see if our logger is firing. And we get an error saying, okay, so I need to pass something, so I cannot leave it that way. So category name is already provided to me, so I can use it here, but first it asks for I configuration. So as this is going to be injected, or DI, dependency injection will be used, I can use dependency injection as well. So I will say, okay, please give me I configuration and create a constructor for it. So now I have configuration, I am passing it. The second parameter is going to be the function. So I can have the same function as a parameter into that one. Oops, yeah, here. Okay, pass me that one too, and I'll use it here. The log function I can provide, and the lastly category name I can provide. So now whoever uses file logger provider is going to be able to pass this I configuration, but not going to be passing this one. So I'm now going to add something here. So I will say, okay, logging extension, give me something. Logging extension. So yeah, so now I'm passing builder configuration as well. Yeah, that's going to be it. And in here, I will be doing exactly this one. Whenever .NET itself or whoever uses this dependency injection, whenever they ask you create, give me an ILogger provider, I will be creating my file logger provider. And the first parameter is going to be the configuration. And the second one, if you remember, will be the function. So the function returns if it is enabled, if you remember. So let me quickly show it to you. If you remember, where is it? Here, exactly. So log level function. If this doesn't happen, we can say, okay, return the value from here. So basically, the log level business logic could be here too. You could read the configuration here and returning true or false accordingly. And so you can use it over here, but I'm now passing true. It's because I'm now checking it inside, but it could be on the outside as well. So let me quickly build this. And if there is no exception, we can run it. What it says, yeah, we are not gonna need you anymore. It's because now we are using our extension function. Let me run it and see if our custom provider generates some log. So let's see. The file is already exists here. It's because what happens when the application runs, it already produced some logs. See, there are a couple of logs here, and I can check the content just to see. See, it is the same actually. Now it is logging into my file, the file that I created, and it is going to be only 1 kilobyte if you remember the size, max size. Let me just test that too. If I refresh this page a couple of times, I'm expecting to see more data. So I will refresh it. It is going to produce new logs, and the logs file is going to be more than 1 kilobyte. And see here it says 2 kilobyte, but it's probably slightly more than. Yeah, it is not 2 kilobyte exactly, but slightly more than 1 kilobyte. So if I get into one of those, I will see the same log. So this means 1 kilobyte log. So you can create 100 megabyte logs or whatever it is. So basically we proved that our application is running, and our custom logging provider, rolling file provider working, and it could even be more professional if you want to spend on time on it. But the log file provider is now working, and this is how we can customize our logger, or how the other logging providers, just like Serilog, just like Sec, using the same interface behind the scene, or just the Microsoft itself, as I just showed you. Add console file, add console logging is implementing the same function, but they are doing something else behind the scene. But this could be enough for me. So if you like this content, please hit the like button. And if you are not subscriber already for the channel, I will ask you to subscribe and also to turn on the notification. So when I publish a new video, you will be notified by YouTube. If you have any subject in your mind that you would like to see a topic about, you can put it in the comments below, comment section. So I'll try to create new contents according to your needs actually. Until next time, I'll see you later.